Okay, now what we're going to do today is find the products of using polynomials. Now it's kind of split into two sections. You are going to be using your... I didn't give you very much workspace because I go from problem to problem. So for today we'll be using the scratch paper. But on future assignments I will give you some room in this box so they won't be two different problems. So what I have is x to the second. So that's a 1x to the second, and that's what we call a monomial because there's only one term, okay? And this thing here is called a polynomial. Now, if there's no sign, that means we multiply the monomial times the polynomial. I know I'm speaking French a little bit, but you'll see the process. It's basically the rainbows on like steroids, okay? So first what I do is I take 1 times 6, but then I got to go back and look. 1 had an x to the second, and 6 had x to the second, okay? I'll figure out what that equals later. Okay, 1 times negative 3. And you're like, well, wouldn't you do plus negative? I'm just going to leave it minus and call it a negative. That's going to really clutter up the problem if you have to go plus negative with everything. If it's minus, you should know that's a negative. Okay, that has x to the second. And that has regular x. I'll figure out what that is here in a second. Then I take 1 times negative 1. That has x to the second. And that doesn't have anything, okay? Now figure these products. Very easy. You take 1 times 6, multiply your big numbers, and then if you have two x's, you add the exponents, and that's x to the 4th. Okay? 1 times negative 3 is negative 3. Now this x didn't have an exponent, so it's a 1, and then 2 plus 1 is 3, so 3x to the 3rd. 1 times negative 1 is negative 1. And all you have is x to the second, so just put x to the second. Now, are any of those powers on the x's the same? They are not, so you just write them all with plus signs. So 6x to the 4th plus negative 3x to the 3rd plus negative 1x to the 2nd. Done. Okay, my next problem. The letters A, make sure they're covered. That's a negative 5, 4, negative 3, and 1. Okay, so now I can start. So negative 5 times 4, but then you have to go back and look at what they had for letters. That had a to the 3rd, that had a to the 4th. Negative 5 times negative 3. Yes, I'm calling that a negative 3. That had a to the 3rd, and that had a. Negative 5 times 1, and that had a to the 3rd. That did not have anything, so it's just a to the 3rd. So I take negative 5 times 4, that's negative 20, and then 3 plus 4 is 7. Negative 5 times negative 3 is 15, and then a, and then 3 plus 1 is 4. Negative 5 times 1 is negative 5, and there's just a to the 3rd. Now, all these powers are the same, are not the same. They're all different, sorry. So I have negative 20 a to the 7th plus 15 a to the 4th plus negative 5 a to the 3rd. Okay. Next one, D is a variable. Make sure they're all covered. So that's 4, negative 2, positive 5, negative 6, and 2. Okay. So I take, again, that means times. So 4 times negative 2. Go back and look those up. You got D to the 2nd, D to the 3rd. Okay. D2, D3. Okay, negative 4 times 5, and we had d to the 2nd, d to the 2nd. 4 times negative 6, d to the second, and d. Put a 1 on that one. Okay. And then 4 times 2. And again, we had d to the second. Why I'm putting a negative there, I don't know. Okay, I screwed that up. So 4d to the second, and that had a 2. So you notice how when I'm doing this, the first factor is always the same. Okay, it's this that changes. So we got negative 8, and then d, 2 plus 3 is 5. 4 times 5 is 20. To multiply the d's, you just add their exponents, d to the fourth. 4 times negative 6 is negative 24. To multiply the d's, you just add their exponents, and that's d to the third. 4 times 2 is 8, just d to the second. Okay. All the powers were different, so I just write them out. So negative 8, d to the fifth, plus 20, d to the fourth, plus negative 24, d to the third, plus 8, d to the second. Answer right there. Okay, again, we got a 1. So times, that's covered by a 7. So I take 1 times 7. And that's x to the second. I take 1 times 4. That's x, and that's nothing. So 1 times 7 is 7. Now put the 1 there, and then 1 plus 2 is 3. So x to the third. 1 times 4 is 4. You can put a 1 there, but if that's the only one you have, just put x. None of those are the same, so 7x to the third plus 4x. Okay, and then finally, this is how kind of it's going tomorrow anyway. The problems will look. You'll have a nice space off to the side. Okay, so 1, so I'm going to have 2 times 1. Go back and look. We had x to the third, x to the third. I have 2 times 3. That's x third and x second. Two times negative 2. That's going to be x third and x. And I have 2 times 5. Okay. That's x third, and that has nothing, just x third. So we have 2, 3 plus 3 is 6, so 2x to the 6. Don't put 9 down. You don't multiply the powers. 2 times 3 is 6. Multiplying powers when they're in parentheses and so forth with 1 in, 1 out. Just forget multiplying the powers. 3 plus 2 is 5. 2 times negative 2 is negative 4. And then I've got 3 plus 1. So that's x to the fourth. And then 10 and x to the third. All of the powers are different. So 2x to the sixth plus 6x to the fifth plus negative 4x to the fourth plus 10x to the third. Now, if I were you, I would pause the video and go do, I tell you what, I'll take off, that's kind of ridiculous to have that many of those. I'll take off this, this, and this. Okay, Merry Christmas. Do those 3 problems, pause the video, and then come back for the rest of it. Okay. Okay, now you're back. Hopefully that went well. Now, what you have here, find the product, because that means you multiply. Now this time they are both polynomials. This is how you multiply with polynomials. Use my scratch paper. 3x plus 1 times 2x minus 5. Well, you can't add those. You can't add those. You can't. One has an x, one doesn't. Well, you're like, well, how the heck do I multiply? Here's how. Box up your 3x, and you're like, what about the plus 1? Forget about it for now, okay? I'll come back to it. What I do is I take 3 times 2, go back and look at them. 3 had x, 2 had x. And then I take 3 times negative 5. 3 had x, 5 didn't have anything. Now, there are no more numbers in here. Cross out the 3x and forget it. It's dead. It's done. Now, what you do then with your 1 is I do the same process. I take 1 times 2. 1 doesn't have anything. 2 has x. And I take 1 times negative 5. So 3 times 2 is 6. Put 1 there. 1 plus 1 is 2. 3 times negative 5 is negative 15. And since that's the only x, we're just going to put x. Okay. I don't need to put the 1 because there's not another x there to add to. 1 times 2 is 2. Just put x. Negative 5. Now, I want you to circle these two. These two are just regular x's. They are like terms, so put LT. Now, here's what you do. Since you had some like terms, you need to draw your blanks out. The highest power I had was a second, so blank x to the second plus blank x plus blank. I would do that. It'll avoid the problems later. So x to seconds, I had a 6. For regular x's, I had these two, so we need to add those. So negative 15 plus 2 is negative 13. And no, it doesn't become x to the second, not when I'm adding. Okay, that's multiplying thing. And then negative 5 is my constant. And there you have your answer. 2y plus 3 times 1y minus 5. Again, it's timesing, so again, start with that. So I take 2 times 1. By the way, don't times 2 by 3. They're in the same parentheses. You don't do that. You're taking one parentheses times a different parentheses. So 2 times 1, and that has a y, that has a y. 2 times negative 5. That has a y, that has nothing, so y. Kill him. Okay, 3 times 1. That doesn't have anything, that has a y. And then 3 times negative 5. Okay, find them. So 2 times 1 is 2. 1 plus 1 is 2, so y to the second. 2 times negative 5 is negative 10. And look, you're like, well, why don't you put a 1 there? You can, fine. But it's really pointless because that's the only y you have. So you can just put a y on it. 3 times 1 is 3. Y. And then negative 15. Okay, these two are like terms because they have both regular y. So blank y to the second plus blank regular y plus blank. Y to the seconds, we had a 2. Now for regular y's, we add these two. Negative 10 plus 3 is negative 7. And then negative 15. 6a minus 3 times 4a minus 1. So let's start with the 6a. We'll just ignore that. I'm going to put my cap over that, so I'll come back to it later. Well, then I'll have to draw my arcs long. That looks stupid. Okay, so 6 times 4. Go back and look at your a. 6 had a, 4 had a. So a and a. And then 6 times negative 1. 6 had a, the negative 1 didn't have anything. Cross out that, now we're looking at the negative 3. Negative 3 times 4. So 3 had nothing, 4 had A, and then negative 3 times negative 1. So that's 24, and then we got 2 A's, so we got to multiply those by adding the powers, so it'd be A to the second. Negative 6, and we just connect an A onto that. Negative 12, just connect an A onto that. And then positive 3. So these two are kind of like terms. So blank A to the second plus blank A plus blank. A to the seconds, I have 24. For regular A's, I have negative 6, negative 12. We add those, and that gives me negative 18 A's. And then we have 3. People who don't draw the blanks tend to get burned because they try doing stupid stuff like adding the powers on these, okay, and saying it's negative 18A to the second. No, it's not. It's just A. I mean, if you're adding like 6x's plus 5x's, that makes 11x's. They don't become x to the seconds. That's a multiplication deal. Okay, that's a 1. Looks like a 6. 1b minus 8 times 5b minus 2. So I have my 1b. So 1 times 5. Now go back and look. You have b and b. 1 times negative 2, go back and look, you got b and nothing. Cross them out. Negative 8 times 5, I have nothing in b. And then negative 8 times negative 2. And then neither one of those has any letters, so there. So 1 times 5 is 5. 1 plus 1 is 2, 5b to the second. 1 times negative 2 is negative 2. A b, and negative 40 with a b, and then 16. These are where the like terms are at. So blank b to the second plus blank b. If you do this, then you'll do it right. So you got 5. And for b, negative 2, negative 40 makes negative 42, and then 16. Okay, 8m plus 7 times 2m plus 3. So I've got 8m. So I take 8 times 2 and then go back and look at the 8 and the 2. We have an m and an m. 8 times 3. I have an m and nothing. And then 7 times 2m. 7 times 2. 7 has nothing. 2 has m. And then 7 times 3. Okay, so 8 times 2 is 16. Add the powers. 1 plus 1 is 2. 8 times 3 is 24. Just m. 7 times 2 is 14. That's the only m you have, so just put it. Then 21. These two go together. They're like terms. Okay. So blank m to the second plus blank m plus blank. So m to the second, we got 16. Regular m, 24 plus 14 is 38. And then we have 21. Okay. Dot. And then negative 3d. So negative 3d times 2d. Negative 3d times negative 1. Kill that. And then 10 times 2d, 10 times 2. And then 10 times negative 1. Okay. Negative 6. Now add the powers on the d's. D to the second. Positive 3. You just put d. 20. You just put d. Negative 10. Here are where the like terms are at. So blank d to the second plus blank d plus blank. So I have negative 6. 3 plus 20 is 23. And then I have negative 10. All right, guys, that's really all to say on that today. I hope it's been informative, and I will talk to you next time.